25 must-eat foods in Japan that aren't sushi. I'm Chris, this is Yellow Productions. I do travel guides that are fun, informative, entertaining, and in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite foods to eat in Japan. This video I actually put together by user request. A fellow explorer said, "Hey Chris, I'm really curious about what foods you think are some of the best in Japan," and so that's what's on this list. By the way, if you hear a little baby in the background, that's our little explorer. She probably misses the fact that perhaps she's not on camera right now. But you know, many people think Japan only has sushi, but Japan has so much more than sushi. And so let's go ahead and get right into it. Number one must-eat food in Japan, one of my favorites that I get every time I go to Japan is tempura. Right here, we're looking at a tempura bowl. We had this on our last trip in Tokyo, and tempura can come in a few different ways, but what is tempura? Well, it is essentially lightly battered, deep-fried meat, vegetables, those sorts of things. Sometimes it comes as single pieces, or as you see here, sometimes it comes served as a bowl. When tempura is served in a bowl, it's often referred to as tendon. You'll find both these places, individual tempura places and tendon places. Typically, the tempura bowl places are the cheapest. I always like to get ones that have shrimp, and then in addition to having rice underneath that, usually get some sauce to dip your tempura in. The second thing that I really like in Japan, and a must-eat food if you go there, is yakitori, which is fried meat on a stick right there. This is a plate of yakitori, and what you see here, these are various meats that they put on sticks, and the best yakitori places grill them over a charcoal fire. What are my favorite meats to get? Well, I really like chicken hearts and chicken skin. That's right, a lot of meats that perhaps you can't get a lot of places, but they do them well in Japan. Also, you could get beef and other pretty normal things, but really good yakitori places, they grill them up, and as soon as they take them off the grill, they give them to you, so they are hot, tasty, and fresh. The third must-eat food when you go to Japan that's not sushi is gyoza. This is the Japanese name for pot stickers, what they might call them in Chinese cuisine. The Japanese have taken a lot of Chinese things and Japanized them. Is that a word? I'm going to use it as a word. And one of them is pot stickers, or gyoza, and I want to show you a video here of making these. This is a particular type of pot sticker gyoza known as Enban gyoza. It's from Fukushima Prefecture, and they fry it up in a pan in a circle. Gyoza are typically, they got this kind of like pork mixture that has some spices like ginger, vegetables, often like leek, and then they put it in a pan, put some oil, fry it up, and there you go. Then you've got pan-fried gyoza. And sometimes people think gyoza is just a side dish, but you know, the best gyoza places, it is not a side dish, it is the main course. Number 4, the fourth must-eat food when you go to Japan is Kaiseki dining, and this one I'm going to show you a video about Kaiseki dining, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about it. So one of the best parts about staying in any onsen hotels is definitely the dinners. And so if you stay in an onsen hotel, make sure you book the room rate that includes dinner. Today we have a traditional kaiseki meal, which means it comes with lots of different courses. To start, we've got a few different appetizers that are here. We've got a little bit of soup with some Chinese herbs. Right here in the middle, we just got this bowl of sashimi delivered to us, and it's really slippery because this is made of ice. My hands are getting cold right now, but there's maguro tuna and some other different pieces of sashimi there. And then in here, come on in and take a look at this. What's in here? This hasn't been turned on the fire yet. We're going to eat this a little later. There's some local Fukushima beef and some asparagus, which is a very popular local plant from Fukushima. And of course, this all goes down very well with beer, biru, and we've got some glasses for sake, and we've got some sauces for some dishes yet to come. This is the whole menu in Japanese, but you'll see it all in pictures as it comes out. And so all over Japan, you'll find restaurants that serve kaiseki dining, but it's definitely best at an onsen hot spring hotel, traditional Japanese inn, because when you're staying at one of those hotels, you also get the yukata to wear, and so it's kind of the full experience. And also, typical kaiseki dining meal, you allocate like a couple hours to, because it's something that comes in these courses, and it's an experience. Really makes you feel like you're in Japan, getting in touch with that culture. Paige on the live chat says she loves onsen hot springs, and some comments on the dumplings. Jana says dumplings from most cultures are delicious, but gyoza is my favorite. I agree with you, Jana. I really like gyoza. I like that Japanese variant probably better than most of the other variants. I know the Koreans love mandu, but I love gyoza better. Then Alex commented about that the meat on a stick earlier, the yakitori, saying that meat is always so much better when charcoal is used. I agree, it is. Wu Tai wants to know if I've ever tried suckling pig cooked over a fire. The skin is out of this world, nice and crispy. It is out of this world. And Michael, traveling the world, says kaiseki is going to be a must-try for his future Japan trip. Great way to sample Japanese food. Yeah, you get a lot of courses and a lot of things all at the same time, so that is pretty good. All right, let's go on to number 5. Fifth must-eat food when you visit Japan is Okonomiyaki. That's what we're looking at in a picture right here. But let's take a look at how this is cooked. Okonomiyaki is essentially Japanese pancake. And here you can see someone making okonomiyaki in front of us. Most of these restaurants will have a grill that you sit next to or in front of. There's some batter, there's some vegetables, there's typically seafood. They put it on this grill and they use their kind of tongs, and then when you're done, you get something that looks kind of like this. When it's Japanese pancake, that doesn't mean it's a sweet pancake, so there's no maple syrup or eggs or those sorts of things. This is dinner time, and it's kind of got this brownish, probably Swedish sauce, and the white sauce you see on it is mayonnaise on there. So that is something that, you know, while you might see okonomiyaki in other places, they often don't do it very well outside of Japan. Carlos wants to let us all know he's wearing his Yellow Productions crew short. Excellent, Carlos. I'm really great to hear that. And Eat Van City asks, which do I prefer, Hiroshima or Osaka style okonomiyaki? Eat Van City, you've probably got me stumped on that one, because I probably always eat them when I'm in Osaka, and so actually I don't know what the difference is. What is the difference between the two? Nothing Master, by the way, who's the explorer that recommended this video, says let's not forget the thumbs up. So if you're enjoying this so far, definitely give it a thumbs up. I very much appreciate it. All right, so a relative of okonomiyaki, and also ends with yaki, is takoyaki. What is takoyaki? Well, taking a look at this picture right here, takoyaki, those are the things that you see on the left of this picture. On the right is half of a okonomiyaki, the Japanese pancake, but on the left, the takoyaki, and by the way, yaki kind of means like fried in Japanese, and taco, T-A-K-O, doesn't mean a Mexican taco, but it means octopus. And so these, you could roughly in English say that they're octopus balls, but they're not that part of the octopus. They are these fried balls of dough that inside each have a little piece of octopus in them. And if you don't like octopus, you might think they sound pretty gross, but they're actually pretty tasty when they're fresh. Takoyaki around the world are often too soggy and kind of gross, but when they're done in Japan, they're just really crispy and hot and tender and juicy. Speaking of Osaka, these are best served and eaten in Osaka. There's a particular street called Dotonbori Street. If you're looking for a chain restaurant that serves takoyaki, our favorite is a place called Gindako, G-I-N-D-A-C-O. They specialize in takoyaki, and takoyaki. Long Chen says, takoyaki is delicious. The flavor, the scent, the texture, it is perfect. I agree when they're good. Some place in the U.S. that serve them, I don't know, they just like microwave and heat them up. Those are not good. But in Japan, for sure, they make them the right way. Zach says it looks like a dessert. Yeah, maybe because they're round, it could look that way. It is definitely savory. Linda says they're good. Michael wants to know if I prefer grilled octopus or takoyaki. I definitely prefer the octopus in the takoyaki rather than just grilled octopus by itself. And Eric says you can get them with shrimp too, ebiyaki. I've never had an ebiyaki, but that sounds pretty good. I would like to try that sometime. And Eat Van City says for the okonomiyaki, the Hiroshima style has yakisoba inside, and it's torture for your mouth. We will get to yakisoba in a little bit, in case you don't know what that is. All right, number 7, the 7th Japanese cuisine that you must eat when you go to Japan that isn't sushi is ramen. When I did this video, it could have been things to eat in Japan that isn't sushi or noodles, because a lot of people think of noodles, and I feel that ramen is pretty well known around the world as Japanese cuisine. But ramen in Japan really is so much better than ramen outside of Japan. And so when you go to Japan, you need to eat ramen. One of my favorite places to eat ramen in Japan is called Ichiran, and I consider Ichiran to be the world's most anti-social restaurant. I want to show you a video from Ichiran down in Fukuoka in Kyushu, which is where they start at 2 minutes. And then we'll talk about more different types of noodles, more than just ramen.
Yellow Productions presents
the most antisocial restaurant ever. Ichiran Ramen behind me in Fukuoka, Japan. This is an antisocial person's dream. It starts by, you line up and then you order at a vending machine. You don't have to talk to anybody to order. You just put your money in, cash only, by the way. Push some buttons, you'll get a ticket. Once you've got your ticket, there's a sign right inside the door that has lights to tell you what booths, not booths, they are booths, they're counter booths. Have you ever eaten at a counter booth? Yes, this restaurant has counter booths. The counter has little dividers on either side, so that when you sit at the counter, you don't have to see anybody on either side. And you don't have to talk to anybody when it's available, because the sign will tell you that. Well, if it's busy, they do have a greeter, that's the only one. So they'll sit you inside, or you sit yourself inside based upon the availability. Then when you're seated, there's a little spot on the counter that you put the tickets that you ordered with. Someone will come and pick up those tickets, and then they roll down the shade so that you don't even have to see the people behind that are bringing you the food. When your food is ready, they'll roll up the shade and they put the food on your table. I will mention the ramen at this particular location, and this is the Daizaifu location by one of the big shrines in Fukuoka. It has these special star-shaped bowls, and it is some of the best ramen I think I've had anywhere. The broth, super good. You'll have different options to customize your ramen, and you do that yourself. You just get a little pen and you circle these different things. You can pick how much garlic you want, how firm you want the noodles. You can order your sides. And then if you order like extra something, like extra noodles, or we ordered extra pudding, they give you a little dish, and then when you're ready to order that pudding or the extra noodles, you put the dish on the place where you put the tickets, you press it down, it makes a song or a noise, they'll come by, pick it up, and they'll bring you that thing. In my case, they bring back the pudding, and they roll down the thing, of course, after they bow to you. You'll see this part of them, but you won't see their face. If you are with a party, the little booths can open up, so you can be next to them, but it's super great if you don't like to see people. It's super well thought out. I also want to point out, in the bathroom, it has the most rolls of toilet paper I've ever seen on a wall before. It was amazing. Well, let me tell you, if you
And I bet that toilet paper is worth quite a bit of money right now with the pandemic. Kathy says, I'm going to have to write down all of these names. And I'll say, Kathy, for the archive, I'm going to update the description with tables of contents and all these names written in the description. That'll probably be on this video about 6 hours after the live stream, so you can come back and look for all the names. And if you're watching the archive, then you'll find them along the bottom as the table of contents for this video. Ko says, First time I went to Ichiran, I felt like I am in the firm as if I am an animal. Oh, like in a pen? I don't know. I actually quite enjoyed it. I didn't feel like that. Oh, and Joshua says that the star-shaped bowl only applies to this bowl in Japan. It does, Joshua. Very good. That's some Ichiran knowledge that you have right there. Amy says ramen's horrible in the U.S. Tastes like plastic or glue. I would not say all ramen restaurants in the U.S., but yeah, non-authentic ones don't taste that great. And Chris from Down Under says this live stream is making me hungry. Well, excellent. I've succeeded. All right, so in addition to ramen, we're in the noodle section now of the video, by the way. The 8th best dish to get in Japan is udon. Oh, but I'm not on udon yet because I have one more picture of ramen. Ramen is so popular in Japan that they have ramen festivals. This was a picture from the Fukuoka Ramen Festival where they had like a whole bunch of ramen vendors that got together. We were sitting there next to the organizer of the festival, and those are ramens from a whole bunch of different ramen shops across Japan. Okay. Number 8, udon. So udon's another type of noodle, different soup base. So ramen soup typically is a pork base, and it's typically kind of a milky, thick base. There's a lot of bases for ramen, but the ramen noodles are typically based on egg. Udon are flour noodles. They are thicker noodles and kind of have a spongier texture to them. The most popular type of udon typically are these flour noodles, a little bit of green onion that you see there, and a little bit of beef in there. There is a chain that's a Japanese chain that's also outside of Japan called Marugame Udon. So if you're looking for kind of a fast, quick, casual place to eat udon, check out Marugame Udon. And Zach says, hey, it's OC Girl. She made an appearance. She did make an appearance, and you'll actually find that she makes an appearance throughout the channel. And Eric says, watching this is making me more hungry. Well, I am also succeeding. Wu Tai says, do you think any place in California has Japanese food that is actually better than in Japan? Oh, that's hard to say because Japanese food in Japan is pretty good. Is it better in California? I mean, there are some, like Los Angeles area has some really good Japanese restaurants. I think one place that might have better Japanese food than in Japan is actually in Hawaii. Hawaii has so many Japanese tourists that come there and they eat Japanese food. Probably my favorite katsu bowl, we'll talk about Katsudon in a little bit, is actually in Waikiki. Fellow Explorer H says, I have a hard time finding great spicy chicken ramen in Los Angeles since everyone is always looking for tonkatsu. Yes, it is hard to find chicken ramen because you're right, it typically is a tonkatsu or a pork base. All right, now let's go on to the next type of noodle. The 10th food that you must try when you go to Japan that isn't sushi are soba noodles. Soba noodles are a buckwheat noodle, so another different type of noodle. And taking a look at this, this particular soba noodle, this is called the negi soba. Oh, what's a negi? A negi is like a Japanese leek, so right there. And in this particular restaurant, you eat these noodles not with chopsticks, but you eat it with the negi. Soba is often served cold. It can be served hot or cold, but the soup base is often cold, often based on like radishes and some other things. So when you go to Japan, check out the trio of noodles, ramen, udon, and soba. Now, soba also has a different variety that it's served in. This is number 10. The 10th must-eat food in Japan is yakisoba. So these are the soba noodles that you saw before, the buckwheat noodles that have then been fried. And kind of like chow mein sort of style with some other things added. This particular one has some pork and some fish cake and then an egg on top. Yakisoba, you'll find it all over Japan. Kirk wants to know, what are my favorite kind of noodles? My favorite noodle are lasagna noodles. If I had to pick a single noodle from anywhere in the world, I love lasagna and I love lasagna noodles. Those are my favorite. Okay, so now let's go on to the next number, number 11. The 11th must-try food in Japan is Japanese curry. Right here we have a plate of Japanese curry. One of Japan's biggest curry chains is called Koko Curry, C-O-C-O, Koko Curry Ichibanya, and they specialize in Japanese curry. Japanese curry is typically always brown like this. At restaurants that serve curry, you can get it in a whole bunch of different spice levels. Typically, the base of Japanese curry, in addition to having curry paste to give it that taste, also has like onions that have been browned and reduced, and often also apples. And so it kind of has this interesting spicy but smooth taste. Most traditionally, Japanese curry is served with rice and some form of fried meat. Here is some pork katsu. This is a very, I would refer to it as like comfort food in Japan. Something quick, something easy, something cheap. You can go to Koko Curry, you can order, and in like a minute or two, they've got your plate of curry right down at your table. Means to Travel says this is such a fantastic topic. We love Japanese food, and it's a place we really want to visit. Well, thank you very much, Means to Travel. Having talked for about 20 minutes, I'm getting thirsty. What am I drinking today? Yes, it's a Japanese drink that I went out to get today for this video. It is a matcha iced tea. What is matcha? You know, matcha is another number on this list. So we'll talk more about matcha tea coming up a little later as I sip on this as we drink. Amy says, want to try to make katsu. Ooh, okay. So let's talk about that. What does it take to make katsu? Because, oh, well, actually, no. I got two more before katsu. So one more in the udon section, and curry is if you combine the two, then you get curry udon. That's what this is. So the udon you saw before, this is the flour noodles. Before had kind of like a clear broth. This udon, instead of a clear broth, has curry as the broth. It's heavy, but it's really good on a cold winter day. That Marugame udon that I cited earlier, the curry udon, is one of their most popular items. Okay, so now we are on to number 12, which is katsu. What is katsu? This is katsu. This is katsu. And katsu is a essentially breaded, fried piece of meat, typically pork or chicken. Now, you might be saying, well, Chris, isn't tempura breaded and fried? Tempura is a light breading and fry. Katsu is a heavy breading and a deep fry, and then like thicker pieces of meat in it. Chicken and pork are typically not used to make tempura. Now, what does it look like to make this? Well, speaking of making katsu, here's kind of what it looks like to cook katsu. Apologize for the title in the corner. This was from a video about making sauce katsudon. But right, they take, if you get a pork one, they take a couple pieces of pork, they put it in a little bit of flour, then they'll put it in a little bit of egg, and then they put it in the batter. After they do that, then it gets deep fried, for just the perfect amount of time to fry it up, but not make it hard. And then it's always cut up for you because in Japan they eat with chopsticks, and so no cutting, no knife needed. Kathy says, I love fried food. You can never go wrong with anything fried. Michael, Traveling the World, says, so katsu is basically chicken fried steak or wiener schnitzel, the Japanese variant of. I think that's a good description, typically with a slightly different dipping sauce, and also thicker. And Long says, the breadcrumbs is based on the shokupan bread. Thank you for that, Long. Kirk says, my recommendation in Waikiki for tonkatsu Ginza Byron was spot on, so delicious. That is my favorite katsu place in the U.S. So if you're headed to Hawaii anytime, to Waikiki, go check out that spot. I eat there every time I go to Waikiki. And Ko says, as a Japanese who's from Japan and live in LA, I love your channel, helping me to have fun in LA. Well, thank you very much. Maybe it's not Ko, maybe it's K-O. And William said, what kind of sauce is this? If you want to see more about that sauce Katsudon, check out my video about the best things to eat in Fukushima. If you just search for like best eats Fukushima Yellow Productions, you'll find the whole section I did on sauce Katsudon that talks about what the sauce is and how the sauce is made. Okay, and so speaking of Katsudon, so katsu sometimes comes just like that as a piece of it, and then you get rice on the side, or if you get it as a katsudon, then the katsu is on top of a rice bowl with some sauce. Anytime you see don, D-O-N at the end, that's talking about a rice bowl. And that is what katsudon looks like, rice underneath, typically some the grilled reduced onions up there, and the katsu, and then some egg on top, often served with miso soup and some pickled vegetables. Okay, number 13 is another type of katsu, and I said that katsu is typically pork or chicken, but there are restaurants that serve beef as well. Now, beef katsu is served slightly differently than pork or chicken katsu because pork or chicken katsu are served like ready to eat. Beef katsu is served rare, like intentionally undercooked, and then at your table they will give you some super hot piece of metal or like a something that has a heat underneath it, and then you pick up these pieces in here and you put them on that hot thing to heat them up because it's not cooked all the way through. So if you really kind of want to be like, hey, I've tried something that not a lot of people have, and you again don't find much outside of Japan, then definitely check out beef katsu. Michael Charlie in the World said, I should make 1,000 things to eat before you die. I will consider that. That would probably be a really long live stream. My voice is getting tired just thinking about talking about that. Honestly, Bridget says, what is your favorite Japanese dish OC Girl makes? And says, traveling princess like Japanese food. OC Girl makes gyoza. OC Girl also makes curry. So those are probably my two favorites. And Traveling Princess, being 13 months, she hasn't started eating a lot of Japanese food yet. She does like tofu, which Japanese like tofu. Not a dish that I've got in this video. Eat Van City says, what Japanese food do you think is better in Hawaii than Japan? The katsu. That's number one. I think the katsu is better. Okay. Then Wutai says that 1,000 Things Before I Should Die, I should make it a book instead of a video. Yeah, well, maybe. Or it could be a 10-part live stream for sure. I love talking about food, as you can tell. And so the next thing to eat in Japan, number 14, is steak. And so there's a lot of different types of steak in Japan. Japan is most famous for the Kobe style beef, sometimes called Wagyu style. These are the cows that are like extra fatty, that they feed beer and that they massage. But Japanese beef really is tastier than American or Australian beef. This picture right here was at a Western style steakhouse in Tokyo. And when I say Western style, what does that mean? Well, what do we see here? We've got some steak, and they slice it so that you don't need to cut it. It is served on a sizzling skillet. Now, that kind of meatloaf-looking thing on the side, that's called hamburger. It's Hamburg steak, which it's essentially what it's described as. It's a hamburger patty, or it's a beef patty, but that's a lot better than the meat that's in a traditional hamburger. And then in the back there is some mashed potatoes, 2 little green beans, some more grilled onions, and then that black hockey puck looking thing, that is a superheated piece of metal, so that if the beef is not hot enough, you can cook it more at your table. Very typical thing at Japanese steak places or that serve beef. They do that for you. They undercook the beef. They don't cook it fully. They serve it a little bit on the rarer side and then give you a way to cook it right to your level at the table. Jana says rare steak. I am all over it. You would love the way it's served in Japan, and I'm a beef eater. But like I say, it's really better in Japan. They don't serve huge portions. You don't get a big honking steak, but each little piece is really delicious. Kathy asks if they give you normal cutlery if you can't if you can't use chopsticks in any of the big cities like Osaka or Tokyo. Yeah, if you ask for fork and a knife and things like that, they've got them, and I don't think they will think anything weird of it. If you're out in the suburbs, then you're maybe a little bit more out of luck. But at steakhouses, you're right, that's probably something you might have more. Stephanie wants to know if OC Girl is Japanese. OC Girl is Taiwanese, originally from Taiwan, though OC Girl did for an exchange school in Japan and spent 6 months living there. Carlos wants to know what's my favorite Japanese place in Vegas. I don't eat Japanese food in Vegas, really, because the Japanese food in Southern California and Los Angeles is way better than the Japanese food in Las Vegas. I find much of the Japanese food in the U.S. is designed to be like high-end and foofy and designed to look good and have a vibe, particularly in Vegas, but not to actually be that tasty. MT says, if you had one last meal, would it be Japanese food or an In-N-Out burger? It'd probably be an In-N-Out burger, I would have to say, right? If I have like one favorite food, it's In-N-Out burger. Anthony Bourdain said, he wanted his last meal before he died to be sushi from Jiro in Japan. And, omakase sushi, this video is not about sushi, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about it, but omakase sushi, where you sit at the sushi bar and the sushi chef cuts up pieces for you, really is something to be experienced at the high-end ones. Chris wants to know if I've had puffer fish in Japan. I've never had puffer fish. That's the poison fish. I prefer just to not live on the wild side, And Paige says, I love strawberry shortcake. We will talk about desserts coming up here in just a little bit. All right, let's go on to the next number. Number 14 is pepper lunch. So I said steak. So we did beef katsu, we did steak, and now pepper lunch as a chain is like fast casual steak. Fast casual beef, steak, beef, those sorts of things. I did a little bit of video on pepper lunch, so I'm going to share that with you now. We'll watch about 15 seconds. I'll skip through to another part of it, so if you see a jump and you're like, this video doesn't make sense, does Chris put these together? No, that's me fast forwarding the video.
Yellow Productions presents
The Pepper Lunch Diner at Ueno Station in Tokyo, Japan. Pepper Lunch is one of my favorite restaurants in Japan, and this is a upscale version of it with sit-down table service. They have the standard pepper lunch items of beef pepper rice, my favorite. They've also got more higher-end steaks, as well as other Western things like prosciutto, mussels, and French fries. They also serve wine, so you can get some alcohol with your steak. This location is located right outside Ueno Station, and in fact, you can see here, it's the Ueno Station Shinobazi entrance. This is on the second floor of the building, right across from that entrance. When you sit down, they put 3 things on your table. They put a glass of water, they put a wet napkin, and they put a bib. It's a good idea to put the bib on so you don't get all the grease from the steak on your shirt. What they also have here, in addition to the miso soup at most pepper lunch locations, they have corn potage. I really like corn soup when I come to Japan. The corn potage comes in this little cup. It's really tasty. And I ordered the extra, plenty of beef pepper rice, large size with extra rice. When they bring it to your table, it's on a hot cast iron dish and it's sizzling. They give you a spoon, you use your spoon to stir it up and cook the meat. Once the meat's done, then you stir up the rice, stir it all together, and it's ready to eat.
Well, now that looks pretty delicious. Let me show you some of the interesting things on the table. They've got utensils, knives, forks, salad dressing. Behind the salad dressings, they've got 2 sauces. This one right here is my favorite. It's got a really strong garlicky taste. I put that on my stuff just like it's gravy. Of course, it's pepper lunch, so you'll find a pepper shaker and salt just in front of these little dishes. There's a little minced garlic container, which you should definitely add some of that on your pepper lunch. Behind the garlic, there's wasabi and mustard, Tabasco, steak sauce, toothpicks, and napkins. The other nice touch about the Pepper Lunch Diner is all of the chefs in the back. They wear white chef's outfits, including tall white chef's hats.
And now my beef pepper rice, it's all done cooking. Look at that. Doesn't it look delicious? Well, let me tell you, it is. So if you're in Tokyo near Ueno Station, make sure to check out the Pepper Lunch Diner. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please.
Okay, there we go. Pepper lunch. Brandon says, I wouldn't eat beef with that much pink. Well, it's served in a cast iron skillet, so you can make it as not pink as you want. And yes, there's the OG Topher in that video. Kirk says, hey Chris, you can't possibly know everything. Where do you research your topics at? TripAdvisor? Everywhere? I don't know. I research my topics everywhere. I don't use TripAdvisor a whole lot, but I don't know. I just everywhere around. If I have a particular like Japanese website I like the best, it's Japan Guide, but they don't do a lot of food stuff. So food stuff is a little bit harder. William says, could these be found in almost all cities or just in some cities? Most major cities will have a pepper lunch. Pepper lunch is also outside of Japan. As Kathy says, they have one in Melbourne. I've, in fact, eaten in the one in Melbourne. Kathy, if you haven't seen my video, or you have, on the best cheap eats in Melbourne, Australia, I ate at the pepper lunch in Melbourne because I like it that much. KO says, have you tried Ikinari Steak? They're also a good chain steak restaurant. I've actually never eaten there. I've want to, and I know that they replaced a lot of pepper lunches because they're owned by the same company. I guess they do better than pepper lunch, more high-end things. It's also kind of funny because Ikinari Steak, some of their locations, because they're in like train stations or really busy areas, they are standing steakhouses that have no tables, that you stand up and eat your steak and you get a bib. And it's funny to be going through these train stations in Japan and you see a Japanese salaryman, businessman, shirt, tie, suit, wearing a bib, standing up, cutting and eating their steak. Another one of those only in Japan experiences. Okay, let's go on to the next number. Another preparation of beef or beef item. This is number 16. Oh, that was not the button that I wanted to push. Okay, me back here. Number 16. I wanted this one to make it big right here. This is Gyutan. What is Gyutan? Gyutan is cow tongue. That beef that you see on the right there, that is sliced cow tongue. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Chris, really cow tongue? Really cow tongue? It is prepared, cooked, tenderized, sliced, much better in Japan than I've had it anywhere else in the world. Mexicans like cow tongue as well, lingua, but I think the Japanese version is preferable. This picture is of a bento box of cow tongue that we had out of the train station in Sendai. If you're looking to try this delicacy, the best place to have cow tongue is in the city of Sendai. It's the next big city north of Tokyo. In their train station, cow tongue is so popular, they have what they call Gyutan Street or Cow Tongue Street, where there's like 10 different restaurants that all serve cow tongue, and it has kind of almost like a it's definitely denser and almost like a meteor taste to it. Meteor, not like meteors that come from space, but more meat packed together in one small morsel. All right, let's go on to drinks. What are some things you need to drink when you're in Japan? Well, number 17 on this list is sake, the traditional Japanese rice wine. There are so many different types of sake. You can get sake hot, you can get sake cold, and when you're having sake, this was a tasting we did at a sake brewery in Japan, and you notice all these different cups and glasses. The way you drink it and what you drink it out of actually significantly changes the flavor of it. So, try different cups, try it a few different places. Some are just straight rice winey, some are fruity, some are bubbling. So there's a lot of different options of sake to sample. And, if you're not a big drinker, one of the great things about getting sake in Japan is you can get it just in like little tiny cups, so you don't have to drink a ton if you don't like it. And thank you. Eric corrected me and said, yes, cow tongue is called Gyutan, and if you were to get a beef bowl, it'd be Gyudan. Thank you. This is my live stream talking brain not functioning all the time, so thank you, Eric, for correcting my pronunciation. Nothing Master loves sake. Nothing Master, do you have a favorite sake? And clearly the emotions on cow tongue are mixed. Jana really likes it, but Alex says that'd be too weird for me. And Brandon doesn't have to worry because horse sashimi is not on today's list, though it is certainly a delicacy in Japan. If you haven't seen it, I got a video all about eating horse sashimi in Japan. The 18th thing you need to try when you go to Japan is beer. The Japanese love their beer, and I'm not a big beer drinker, but I think Japanese beer is some of the best in the world. They keep it really cold. It's on draft almost everywhere. Classic brands, Sapporo, Asahi, and I like that you can get it in small glasses for like 200 or 300 yen, $2 or $3 for a little glass of beer is nice. You don't have to get like a $10, like gigantic container that's the size of your arm. Eat Van City says hot vending machine drinks are good on cold days. We're not talking about vending machines in this video, but yes, one of the amazing things in Japan is you can get both hot and cold drinks from vending machines. Not all vending machines, but some vending machines, which is really cool. And KO says, yes, one of the best places to research Japanese food is Tabelog. I think that was probably a autocorrect spell thing, but like table log, Tablelog, or Tablag, Tabelog, Tabe. Put a B where the G is in that, and then you get the grade. It's like the Yelp of Japan. What I think is funny about Tabelog is Japanese are really harsh on stars and reviews. You go to restaurants in the U.S. and like everybody gives it 5 stars. In Japan, like that same restaurant, like everybody gives it 2 stars. Brandon wants to know if Japan has an Oktoberfest of their own. Yeah, I would say it's the Cherry Blossom Festival in late March or early April. People like to take beer and go drink it under the cherry blossom trees, and every place that has cherry blossoms turns into an outdoor festival. So that would be Japan's. That would be Japan's Oktoberfest as kind of the best holiday to do day drinking. That's kind of what I look at. That's what I look at Oktoberfest as. All right, number 19 thing you have to have when you go to Japan is matcha tea. In this picture, different what I'm holding, but I'm going to make it big first. In this picture, we see some hot matcha tea with some little desserts there. And then in my hand, I've got some iced matcha tea. Now, I prefer my matcha tea to be unsweetened. Both in the picture and this are unsweetened. Matcha is green tea that's served in powdered form and then mixed in, kind of like often whipped up to give it that sort of big frothy look like that. It's good hot or cold, and if it's not sweet enough for you unsweetened, then you can absolutely get it sweet too. But I would say traditionally matcha is had unsweetened. The 20th thing you need to try when you go to Japan is milk. The milk in Japan is so much better than the milk anywhere else in the world. The strain of cows that they use are much fattier than cows use most places for milk, and it just has a much richer, milkier, smoother taste. I make sure to have a glass of milk every day when I'm in Japan. And Michael said that little thing earlier was a dessert. It looked like a cotton ball or balloon. It was a mochi, so it had red bean inside, and it was wrapped in a rice cake, so that's why it was white on the outside. Briggs says green tea all day long. For sure, green tea all day long. Eat Van City says matcha is so bitter. Well, add more sugar and it'll be less bitter. And KO says, in addition to cherry blossom festivals. They also have summer festivals, which might be more like Oktoberfest. Thank you for that, Kay. Oh, there's festivals, frankly, all year round in Japan. And so if you do go to Japan, I would suggest taking a look at the region that you're in and seeing what festivals they have. You know, a great winter festival in Sapporo is their snow festival, where they make these really neat snow sculptures. Carol agrees on the milk. It is so creamy. It is. Carlos wants to know, is it just me, or is everything in Japan better than everything? Not everything in Japan is better. Definitely hamburgers are better in the U.S. than they are in Japan. In-N-Out Burger has not made it to Japan yet. And Kathy says, would not have thought the milk would be any different. It is. Anybody that's been in Japan, the strength of the milk will tell you the milk is different and it is better. Michael says, better than Switzerland? Better than Switzerland. Yes, better than Switzerland. Though Switzerland and Japan have a lot of things in common. So, you know, like I say, like, my favorite country for trains is Japan. My second favorite country is Switzerland. So I think, like, the Swiss and the Japanese are, you know, long-lost ancestral cousins somehow. And Eric says the best milk in the world is from Hokkaido, the northern island. Yeah, there's many like ice creams and milk served throughout Japan, and they're like often proudest when you get the Hokkaido ice cream, Hokkaido milk tea, Hokkaido milk. So let's move on to dessert now. The 21st thing that you need to eat when you go to Japan that isn't sushi is Taiyaki. This is one of my favorite desserts to eat in Japan, and you will often find these sold at street festivals that we talked about. So if you're there for summer festivals or you're there for cherry blossom festivals, you will see vendors serving taiyaki. I'm going to make this big for a second. And so taiyaki, they're almost always in the shape of a fish, and it's a little bit of a kind of a sweet, battered outside, and then inside it's got some sort of filling. This particular one that's being made here is being made with red bean, though my favorite are the ones with custard. And I'm sure my Japanese friends on the stream will excuse me for my poor pronunciation, but if you get a taiyaki that's custard, costado. So I can just walk up and say ichi costado, and then I get one custard taiyaki. And Esther says, as someone who's lactose intolerant, for some reason I can drink milk in Japan. Esther, I understand you completely. In the U.S., I always drink lactose-free milk, Lactaid, or things like that. And in Japan, I've got no problem drinking the milk straight up. So yeah, it's just better. 7-Eleven is the best 7-Eleven in the world. You know, 7-Eleven, many people think, is an American chain owned by an American company. In fact, it's a Japanese company. 7-Eleven is Japanese owned. And so, yes, the 7-Elevens in Japan are the best 7-Eleven in the world. Long says, watching this while exercising was not a good idea. You'll be ready for dinner or whatever meal you're having when you're done. Designista says the matcha ice cream was a new experience. If you're into matcha, you might like it for sure. So let's talk about that, actually. And so not just matcha ice cream, but in particular matcha parfaits. So this is a Japanese dessert delicacy, most famous in Kyoto, the old capital of Japan, but you'll find them all over. These parfaits that have green tea flavored ice cream, that then have like green tea flavored cake. So I'll tell you what you see in this one from like the bottom to the top. So the bottom, that's green tea flavored ice cream. Then up that, those are almost like pound cake pieces that are green tea flavored. Then you've got red bean. You've got some more, probably it's like a maybe matcha flavored paste. The white thing you see in there is mochi, so it's a chewy rice ball. Those brownish things are kind of like Rice Krispie treats. My memory serves me correctly. The orangish thing was some sweet potato, and then you've got some whipped cream on the top. And yes, sweet potato in Japan can often be served into a dessert type thing. Okay, how many of me need to be on the screen? Not that many. And Kathy says it looks like a matcha trifle. It does, yeah, kind of like a matcha trifle. I would say that. And Michael says the difference between 7-Eleven in Japan and the U.S. is that in the U.S. it's gas and Slurpees, and in Japan it's a fast food chain, bank plus office for sure. 7-Eleven is the best place to get like ATMs, get your money out. Jared says, I love mocha taiyaki. I haven't had mocha taiyaki, I guess the coffee flavor. And Amy says no to natto. Natto is definitely not on this list. I not a fan of natto. Well, the 23rd thing to eat when you're in Japan are Japanese French pastries and fruit cakes. The Japanese love their fruity desserts, and in major Japanese department stores in the basement food floor, you will find a ton of bakeries serving really amazingly delicious fruity desserts and Japanese-style French pastries. Definitely check them out. Now, Japanese department stores typically don't have any place to eat them, so you'll probably pick them up and take them back to your hotel. What's often pretty neat is they typically give you some ice to go along in the package, so as you're taking that home, it doesn't spoil in the hot sun. So now, speaking of fruit, not just dessert, the fruit in Japan is amazing. The strawberries are amazing, the grapes are amazing, and the melons are amazing. They're definitely more expensive, but let's watch a little bit of a video that I titled Eating Expensive Melons in Japan.
Yellow Productions presents Eating Expensive Melons in Japan. In much of the world, cantaloupe and watermelon are considered to be a fairly inexpensive breakfast food. Not in Japan, particularly the northern island of Hokkaido, where cantaloupe is truly a delicacy. The melons that I ate in Hokkaido, Japan were truly the sweetest melons I've had anywhere, and the price matches the taste. A single whole melon can be upwards of $50 at a Japanese department store.
So Hokkaido is famous for its melon. There are stores selling cantaloupe everywhere. And here in Furano at Tomita Farms, they sell a slice of cantaloupe for 250 yen. It comes on a nice little plate. You can sit outside and dine on the sweet cantaloupe.
Or perhaps have some melon-flavored bread or melon-flavored buns. At Melonland, in addition to the Melon Food Court, they have the Melon Purchasing Center, where you can buy a box of 2 melons shipped directly to your house in Japan for 4,500 yen, or about $50. And did I mention you can buy melons just about everywhere in Hokkaido? In fact, I visited a seafood market where you can buy crab, and right next to it you can buy melons. So, I had to sample some.
In addition to seafood, you can also buy cantaloupe at this market. One cantaloupe, about $40. One piece, about $1. It's a pretty sweet cantaloupe.
Or if you're really feeling like a big spender, head on up to the watermelon section for 8,800 yen, or about $100. You can get yourself a tasty watermelon.
In Furano, another famous food is the melon softo. Cantaloupe melon with soft serve ice cream on top. 1,050 yen, about $13. But it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? And if you're driving around and feeling like some cantaloupe softo, how do you know where to find one? Well, just look for the giant melon with the ice cream in it.
And somehow, if you missed your melon fix while you're in Japan, the good news is they sell them at the duty-free shops at the airport too. Cantaloupes, corn, watermelon, and asparagus. But take my word for it, definitely try the melon. It'll be the sweetest you've ever had. And if you're not in Japan, but you've watched this video and you want to order some at home, good news, most of these places have a catalog where you can order.
So, speaking of sending things home, Amy wants to know, where's the best place to get Japanese food sent to the U.S.? One of my favorites probably is Tokyo Treat. I actually did a video about Tokyo Treat. You can search probably Tokyo Treat, Yellow Productions. I did a whole live stream eating the foods from Tokyo Treat. I have not tried the square watermelon. I don't have quite the money for that. All right. The 25th thing you need to try when you go to Japan is pudding. And before I show you pudding, our little explorer wanted to come and say hi right here. Here she is. She's wondering what all the noise is over here. She's getting pretty big. She likes walking, and she always wants to come in and be like, here, this should go away. Just be like, what is all this really expensive looking stuff with cameras and lights? And now she likes this next thing right here that we're going to look at that you definitely need to get when you're in Japan. As another thing that I have every day, I have this.
Fukuoka today, and what am I eating? What did I fly halfway around the world to Japan to eat? Is it sushi? No. Is it ramen? I already had that twice yesterday. Today it is pudding. At the Tenjin train station, there's a shop just outside called the Hakata West Street Pudding Shop. And you know what they sell? Pudding. And you know what else they sell? Nothing. All pudding. And it's an entire shop dedicated to pudding. The Japanese love pudding. Their number one is the pudding with caramel, which I'll eat in a moment, but this one is their milk pudding. It's 300 yen for this tiny little pudding. And, hey, best pudding I've ever eaten. It is very milky. It's actually quite good. Sometimes when I eat things on video, because there's this guy, Mark Wiens, you might have seen him. He's in Thailand. He eats things, and his eyes get really big. But my eyes are actually really big because it really tastes good. Like, it's a strong, milky flavor, like French vanilla ice cream in a pudding. This is the caramel one, which they say is their number one bestseller, which is okay. But the milk one, it was really super good. So if you like pudding, Hakata Street West Pudding Shop, do it now. Well, not right now because you're probably not in Fukuoka, but when you come to Fukuoka, do it then. All right, thanks for watching. If this was your first time here, please click on this yellow ball to subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, links in the description below, or watch one of these.
There we go, the pudding. And, you know, pudding, like there's shops that just sell pudding. So we always try to look for like gourmet pudding shops, but like 7-Eleven, any convenience store, the pudding is really good. And Michael says, definitely better than Jell-O pudding. It is definitely better than Jell-O pudding. William wants to know, how many times did you go to Japan? I've 10 times, 15 times. I've been to Japan quite a few times. We probably go every other year to Japan.
Yes, it's the time you've been waiting for. It's time for the giveaway.
All right, it is time for the giveaway. I'm licking my lips because I'm hungry now, too. It's almost dinner time talking about all this food. And so my question for you today to win a Yellow Productions Crew shirt shipped to you anywhere in the world is, what did I order for dessert at Ichiran Ramen? The first person to answer that question correctly will win a Yellow Productions Crew shirt shipped anywhere to them. I'm looking for a complete answer, which is the food and the flavor. So if you're the person to answer what the dish for dessert was at Ichiran that I showed you earlier as the most antisocial restaurant and what flavor it was, then you will win a Yellow Productions Crew shirt. By the way, we're pretty excited in California because the California regional lockdowns have just ended, which means that outdoor dining can finally resume again. So today I was actually able to eat on the patio of In-N-Out Burger again for the first time in, what's it been, 2 months or something like that? All right, and
now we have a winner chicken dinner.
So lots of people saw it and said pudding, but the first person with the full correct answer was Esther with matcha pudding. So Esther, congratulations. You win a Yellow Productions Crew shirt. Send me a message on Facebook. You'll find a link to my Facebook page in the description or an email, chris@yellow.net with 2 W's. Let me know what size you want and where you want me to send it, and I will get that right out to you. A lot of people who said matcha pudding, but Esther's is the first one that showed up on my screen, so she is the winner. Coming up next this week on Friday, I'll have another video walking tour for you. It'll be the Redondo Beach Pier, so you can join me and our little explorer for a walk on I would argue the Los Angeles area's second most famous pier after the Santa Monica Pier, a walking tour that we did about a month ago. Well, as usual, I won't say goodbye because I'll see you all in the next video. By the way, if you're watching the archive and you're like, what are all those things that you said, Chris? You'll find their names in the description. Just go ahead and expand it. For you on the live stream, come back in about 6 hours when I put those in there once this video is processed, and you'll see the names. So if you didn't catch them going through, they will be right there. All right. Thanks for watching all.